She spoke to us after she was gone. This is the truth at the heart of this story. It is a chilling and unusual statement. It is a fact that defies our normal understanding of the world. A voice reached out from the silence of death. It demanded to be heard. It demanded justice. This single, strange event is what sets this case apart. It forces us to listen, to lean in closer, to question what we believe is possible. The voice came through another living person. This person had no connection to the crime. They had no reason to know the things they began to say. Yet, they spoke with the authority and the knowledge of the victim herself. They spoke of the crime. They spoke of the killer. They spoke with a clarity that could not be easily dismissed as mere fantasy or delusion. Imagine the scene. A family sits in their home, miles away from the crime scene, trying to comprehend the loss of a friend. Suddenly, one of them, a medical professional known for her calm and rational demeanor, begins to change. Her voice alters. Her mannerisms shift. She speaks in a language she does not normally use. She speaks as Teresita Basa. The words that come from her mouth are not her own. They are the last desperate plea of a murdered woman. A voice that has somehow found a vessel through which it can finally reveal the terrible truth of what happened in her final, terrifying moments. This was the beginning of a most unusual investigation. On the evening of February 21st, 1977, the quiet of Teresita Basa's apartment building was shattered. Firefighters were called to her 15th floor apartment to extinguish a blaze. They forced their way through the door and were met with thick, acrid smoke. They worked quickly to control the flames, which seemed to be concentrated around a mattress. As the smoke began to clear, they made a grim and horrifying discovery. Beneath the charred remains of the mattress lay the body of Teresita Basa. Her life had not been taken by the fire. That had merely been an attempt to conceal a far more personal and vicious act of violence. The initial examination by the authorities at the scene told a brutal story. Teresita was found naked, with a butcher knife plunged deep into her chest. The fire had been set deliberately after the murder, a crude attempt to destroy evidence. There was no sign of forced entry, suggesting she knew her attacker and let them into her sanctuary. The initial phase yielded very few leads. No one could provide a name or motive. The detectives had a brutal murder, a deliberately set fire, and a victim everyone loved. What they did not have was a suspect, a traceable weapon, or a clear reason. Days, weeks, months. The trail was cold from the start. Shock turned to lingering sadness, and fear that the killer walked free. Conventional methods were exhausted. Every lead crossed off. The break in the case came from a source so unbelievable it was almost dismissed out of hand. It came from a suburb of Chicago, from the home of Dr. Jose Chua and his wife, Remy. Remy Chua also worked at Edgewater Hospital, the same place as Teresita, yet they were merely colleagues. Several months after the murder, Remy began to experience strange episodes. She would fall into a trance-like state. Her voice and demeanor would change completely. She spoke as if she were Teresita Basa, voice filled with sorrow and urgency, terrifying her husband.
Doctor, I would like to ask for your help. The man who murdered me is still at large.
Over a series of episodes, the voice laid out details of her murder. She named her killer, Alan Showery. Showery was an orderly at the hospital. The voice said he came to repair her television and instead attacked and killed her. He stole her jewelry and set the fire to cover his crime. A man of science, he tried to rationalize it, but the voice persisted, giving specific details, pieces of jewelry including a pearl ring from France and phone numbers of relatives to warn about gifts to a girlfriend. When Remy was herself, she remembered nothing. Torn between worldviews, he felt a duty to Teresita, picked up the telephone and called the police, knowing how insane it would sound. Detective Joseph Stakula took Dr. Chua's strange call. He listened with professional patience but deep skepticism. With no other viable leads, he decided to investigate the name, Alan Showery. Showery had been questioned routinely after the murder and had provided a seemingly solid alibi. Brought in again, he denied everything, insisting he was with his girlfriend, watching television. This time, detectives had specifics, the voice's details. They asked about Teresita's jewelry and followed the spectral thread. The crucial break came when detectives spoke to Showery's girlfriend and asked about any new jewelry. Among them were the very items Teresita's family reported missing, most notably the distinctive pearl ring from France. With tangible proof in hand, Showery's alibi and composure crumbled. His story changed. He confessed he went to fix the television, attacked, stabbed, stole jewelry, piled furnishings, and set the fire. The details matched the scene. The voice had told the truth. The case against Alan Showery went to trial in 1979. The prosecution had a signed confession and the stolen jewelry, an imposing mountain of evidence. The defense moved to suppress the confession, arguing it was coerced, worn down by interrogation and confronted with a spirit's tale. To everyone's surprise, the judge agreed. The confession was thrown out. The case hinged on the jewelry and witnesses. The defense suggested alternative paths, found, bought, or passed through unknown hands. Remy Chua never testified about trances, yet her role was undeniable. Her information led police to Showery and to the girlfriend's jewelry. Ultimately, the physical evidence was enough. Alan Showery was found guilty and sentenced to 14 years. The case was solved not by a fingerprint, but by a whisper from another world. The conviction brought closure to the investigation, but Teresita Basa's story has resonated for decades. It remains a landmark not of law, but of faith and the unexplained. How does one account for what happened? How did Remy Chua, a rational professional, come to possess knowledge impossible for her to have? She knew the killer's name, the motive of robbery, the specific items stolen, without any conventional way to learn them. For hardened detectives, the experience was transformative. Detective Stachula later admitted he could not explain it, but came to believe the voice was real. The case forced a reckoning between the tangible world of evidence and the intangible realm of spirit. It suggests the desire for truth may transcend life and death. Teresita's was a quiet, persistent whisper that found someone who would listen, carrying what was needed to solve a senseless crime. Not a ghost story for thrills, but a testament to a voice that refused to be forgotten,